Hey guys, UVW Solutions here. Welcome to another tutorial. We're going to talk about UV mapping today and try and make things fun and exciting. I hope everyone is safe with this COVID-19 scare, and I hope that everyone is doing well and is healthy. And if you happen to be available to play around and do some modeling, this is a great opportunity. So let's jump right in. So what we're going to do today is take this discus. This is a model that I've created a while back and sell on CG Trader and my website, roar3dsolutions.com. And we basically are going to take these placards, these paintings of the textures, and we're going to make this a usable, quick to read texture kind of model. So jumping right into it, let's kind of talk about what we got to do to prep ourselves here. So first off, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get rid of some of this stuff I have in here. This model is actually kind of set up for full rig, so I actually have a whole bunch of options here that I've thrown into it. This is designed for more of the, if you're making a kind of a video animation, you can kind of have everything functioning and operate the way the aircraft is supposed to, and have quick controls at your fingertips. That's the idea. So what I'm going to do though is, if we take a look, how I have these set up right now is they are projections. So in Cinema 4D, if you're familiar and you've used Cinema 4D, then you know that when you're putting a texture on an aircraft or on a model, what you end up with is basically kind of a placard to start with. You don't have a full UV map. Without a UV map and defining where that's going to be, you're going to end up with a whole bunch of gibberish. So what we're going to do is show you how to take these textures and turn them into a usable modeling mesh to be able to recreate multiple liveries and multiple paint jobs if that's what you'd like to do. So to start, I'm going to take this model, and you can see all the layers that I have in here. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all of these UV tags that I have. Because I do generate tags as I'm going through, but these are all flat projections. So we have that, we have no UV tags. Now we're going to come in here and we're going to start with, I'm going to actually copy, Control C, and we're going to go ahead and go into a new window altogether. Sure, I'm going to go ahead and load those up. So here we have the fuselage. So to start with, what I want to do is I want to work with half of the fuselage. So I have half of it loaded up here that I'm going to go ahead and delete. If you don't know how to do that, you can hit UL, and that'll give you a loop. Assuming it's a quad model, a triangle is not going to work quite as well. You have to do it by hand, but you're going to go ahead and select the loops of everything, and you're going to go ahead and delete. And once you've done that, go to your point mode, Control A, right click, optimize, and get rid of those isolated vertices. Boom, we now have an aircraft that is halfway ready to go ahead and prep for UV mapping. So if I select this object, I'm going to go ahead now into BPUV edit, and if I were to just grab any of these points, it won't let me. Why is that? Well, because it doesn't have a UV map yet. So we're going to go ahead here to the paint setup wizard, and we're going to say, yes, I want you to create me a UV map. And I'm for the moment not going to recalculate, so we can show you what it actually is at right now. And this doesn't matter at the moment. I really only care about the color. We'll say next. It'll go through a whole series of things. Now I should be able to go ahead and select the model. And as you can see, make sure that your UV tool is tag is all the way to the far end, because otherwise it could run into a problem. So as you can see, what we have here are basically a quasi set calculation for how the aircraft is pieced together. Now this is the automated method that the system has done for us. It's given a little bit of recalculation. The fuselage is a a flat projection, so that's a convenient thing that it kind of set it up in a fairly easy to work fashion. So we're going to try and make this as painless as we can. And then from here, let's go ahead and just talk about how it is that we're going to readjust things. So first, we're going to make a new texture. I always like to make them at least 8K. I'm going to call it Viscous Fuse. And boom, we now have our first layer in the mix of things. So if I just zoom in here and I say, cool, I can click anywhere in here. And as you see, as I'm clicking the UV edit, you see that all these polygons start populating, and I can do the same thing in the editor. So this is really cool, but maybe I want my texture to continue right here, for example. Well, I want these polygons. Well, what's going on? So I have to zoom out, and then I have to zoom back in and say, oh, it remapped itself to a completely different area. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and bring up a couple of quick flow options. So select connected is one that we're going to use a lot. Invert, and we'll start there. So first things first is, now that I've selected one of these in that map section and I select connected, I can see already how this is laying itself out. So I have the ability to go ahead and hit R, or we can use a rotation, and we can click on a point and rotate anywhere we want to go. Same fast keys as the normal editor, by the way. So E will move, and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the actual area. I'm going to select connected, move, and we're going to move this kind of out here. Now, I want to focus a little bit here. So in the UV mapping world, it's all about stretching, contracting, and constricting. So what you're doing is, when you built this, like when I built this initially, this model was designed to, have a nice smooth flow to it. Well, it does, but I use a frontal projection for one, on the side view, and basically a frontal projection for the top view to get this output, the cubic output. So what we have to do is kind of manipulate it a little bit. So we're going to select all those connected again, and this is an important one. Go to snapping. I use point. You can use edge too if you like, and radius at least 8 is good. You can go 10 if you want to be a little bit sloppier. So now I can click on a point, hit E, and we can map. Let's see here. So somewhere in here, oh no, that's why it's acting up. There we go. So now when I come and I can get it close to that vertice, it will automatically snap into position, which is really useful. And then let's take a quick look here. It looks like we're kind of lined up. So now we're going to do a little bit of the painful work. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to select the point mode. So don't let this scare you yet. We're going to go ahead into our live selection tool. And I can click and hold and scroll and change that radius if I desire. So I like this mode over the polygon mode, because if I move these, so if I move right now, it's going to shift those points. If I come into just these polygon selection tool and I move, now I've broken that UV off completely. So it's important to note that. These are all these lessons learned that I ran across more recently. It's a real helpful tool. So I'm going to select these polygons. I'm going to move. And I'm just going to go down the line. Control and click on them and clear those. Move, control, remove, move, control to remove. So all I'm doing when I want to get rid of of these vertices is holding control and clicking the mouse button over them. Now, we are creating a little bit of distortion. That's kind of an expected thing. It's going to happen. So we're going to try and clean that up best we can. But let's just make this usable at the moment. Okay, so now we have more of this fuselage. And as you see in here, I didn't quite map these up. That's another thing you can do. You can also have these points if you just want the average of them selected. I can select both of these points, and under UV commands, UV terrace, and boom, it'll bring them together. But I really like the look for my mapping. I like the look of having kind of the more flat projectile or projection set in place. So I'm just going to stick with this for the moment. All right, so now as this fuse gets kind of tighter and tighter to the tail, again, I just want to select all of these points. And another problem with Cinema 4D is that, you know, if you're just doing a bake, and we'll show the difference of that too. You can always bake these textures and get an output, and it just is not great. It's difficult to work with. It doesn't look very appealing. So all I'm doing is hitting spacebar in between to select between move and the live selection tool. Oops. Sometimes I get ahead of myself. There we go. So the nice thing is that, you know, I created this model on quad, so it's fairly clean in terms of overall build. So being able to do exactly what you're seeing here is quite painless. When it's a triangulated model, it's going to be very challenging. This will kind of force you to want to get into making models in quads if you haven't already done that. We all in the community, you know, strive to make things completely in quads. It just smooths better. There's just so many good things about it. So it's just a little bit more challenging sometimes to model. So, okay, so now we're in a more complicated part. So for example, I'm going to look here and let's see what we have going on. So I'm going to select the polygon mode for UV, and you can see here that we can step through and look at these polygons. So how it goes is this piece needs to come up here, and then this piece needs to basically come right in here. So this is a point to where we'll go ahead and we are going to be kind of changing where it's at. So I'm going to move this polygon just a little bit. I'm going to grab this point, and it does help to have an understanding of 3D space in general when you're working on some of these. And now I'm going to just grab that point, set it here, grab this point, set it here. So now that's a continuation of the map. And then just to make sure, so we have the bottom one here, and this continues on. So we're going to go ahead and select these polygons, and we're going to move them there, drag, drop, drag, drop, drag, drop. Now it is important that you line up the right polygons correctly, because you'll find out pretty quick when you start running your UV texturing if it's actually misaligned. It will unfortunately show plain as day, which is kind of a nice, you know, thing to be able to get it exactly where you need it. So I'm going to go ahead and just map these. Since this is a very simplified paint job, just wanted to give a quick understanding of how things are actually happening here, so you have a good understanding. Same thing here, so we want to do another quick check. So we have the bottom, we have the top, and then we're into this guy. So we just need to slide in between again so that we can have this polygon match up to this guy. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll have these points and these points. And it's actually not as scary as it looks, so long as you have an understanding of how you're actually aligning your parts. You can manipulate and maneuver things as much as you want, actually, and not have to worry about causing any damage to setting this up for painting. Okay, and there we go. So although we're probably going to have distortion, we're going to have to make some adjustments here. For the moment, what we have is a almost working fuse. So if I look right here, I can see that I'm missing a part. I'm missing these UVs. So if I come in and I look 1, 2, 3, and there's that fourth one. So I can directly select those, come in, find them in the map, and this is where things can be fun because sometimes they'll mirror or reverse the actual map on you. So let's see if I get this right. I'm going to rotate and move them over, and to verify what is what I need to do, because you don't want to accidentally put these in reverse order. Even though this is a larger UV, doesn't necessarily mean it was that front one. Sometimes it could be opposite, but you can do a check here, and you can come in and select that vertice and see that that one holds true. So that point to that point, that point to that point, and so on. So it makes our life a little bit easier. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll go ahead and just take these as a group. Almost. So you can see I'm offsetting it. You might say that's kind of weird. Why would you do that? Well, if you have the snap settings in place, if you deselect those and they're very close, you may not realize that you actually are not on target. So sometimes moving it off is a little bit easier. Okay, so there we go. So now we have most of this bottom part that is now connected. And the other thing I'd like to do is try and finish wrapping the top. So where is the top? So let's go ahead and select that connection. And, oops, did I just make a move? I did not. So if I zoom out here, there's our top piece. And that is going to be the center of the fuselage right there. So I'll select connected. I'm going to move this up here. We're going to rotate. The beautiful part is it's not an exact science in how you rotate and move and manipulate things. You can do this however you see fit. So right now this part is a little bit longer, so I'm gonna scale it down just a touch to make life easier. I'm going to go to my point mode again. And let's go ahead and make this a little bit larger, and let's just grab them all because I do think that this is the easier way. Now, granted, there are ways to go about throwing in seams and making life a little bit easier. I'm a simpleton. That's why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it, because this is a method that works for me. It's a little bit timely, but it gives me exactly the result that I'm looking for. So when I want to go in and prep a model for export to deliver to a customer, this is kind of what I want, is to make sure that I haven't missed anything. So all those auto tools are great, I'm not going to lie, but you have to QC your own work. So make sure that you run through and you prep all of this. And the beautiful part is that your UVs will preserve into any other program that you switch over into, and it's going to make your modeling is going to the type of models that you can make are going to dramatically look much more attractive when they have correctly mapped UVs. There we go. All right, so that line's up there. I'm going to bring this down again. 2 lines up there, there, and there. And again, we'll have to make some adjustments. So if we take a quick look, let's see how these should look. So you can see how this is drooping, and this polygon here in general does not look the way that this one looks. So that's going to create some problems for some distortion. So we can make some adjustments here. Kind of close that in a little bit. There we go. There will be distortion though. I mean, there's no denying it. You can't make a perfect map. You'll always have a little bit of distortion in some fashion, some way, shape, or form. All right, so if I look here and I look at where these pieces are. All right, so let's connect those, bring them over. So we're almost done with the fuselage here, so we'll bring them over. And we're gonna just do the same thing. So let's see here. Bottom, that looks good. And just to confirm, that point should match up to that point, and it does. And that point to that point. And that point to that point. So we'll select these points again. Let's go ahead and drop him. So you can see you don't even have to necessarily rotate and twist. I'm going to rotate this a little, but you don't have to rotate and twist and manipulate. It's really this simple. It's just use your snapping point and just get it right onto the vertex, because you don't want them separate from each other. It's just going to create a terrible, terrible mess if you do that. All right, so let's say there, and I know that's going to distort later on, so we're going to try and make some of these. There we go. Okay, I think I'm happier with some of this. Okay, so let's see here. What have we missed? So the wing is also inclusive. Aha, we have this little lip for the rail that we have to do still. So let's see, how far deep does this go? So we have, okay, so we have the very beginning phase. Oh, we're missing part of the nose as well. So let's find that. Great, so select connected. And that should be right there. We'll move that. Come over here, and what the automatic calculation has done is it has taken a cubic photo, and it's basically converted it over so that it's looking at a top profile and a side profile, and it's trying to measure as accurately as it can to give you the best, most usable workspace. Cinema 4D is good at that. It just isn't a good workspace, so that's why we have to go in here and clean the rest of this stuff up. So that's good. Clear that out. We'll move this over. Move these. Move these. Again, you're going to have distortion here, so some work's going to have to be done to fix that and smooth things out. And that's all you're going to end up doing is smoothing things out. Remember, there is no perfect map. There are very good maps, though, out there. Some people are very, very good at this, at cleaning things up. So we'll just do a little bit of that. That'll help a little bit, instead of having that sharp curve. Because what's going to happen is when you have a texture on there, and we'll get to that later, but when you have a texture on there, it's going to do a very peculiar wrap. So there we go. We have that fixed up. Now we have to go ahead and get the rail. Dun, dun, dun. So we're going to take the rail here and do the same thing. Select connected. Move him. And I have a whole bunch of lines, and over the years I've gotten much better at how I've been modeling things, but this is a little bit older model, so I'm gonna suffer through this with all of these added lines that are not necessary. And I see an n-gon right there, which shame on me. But let's go ahead and just throw this guy in here, and let's see here. So that looks like that is correct. So I'm going to go now to my polygon selection, or on my point selection, and select all these points. Okay, so now if we set this on, we'll go ahead and actually try and make some cool stuff happen. So set it in place, that looks good. Set this in place. Actually, let's see here. Minimize the amount of distortion. So we'll do that, we'll do that. And we'll do that. And you can see there are still some parts that are missing, but what I have here is a functional fuselage. So I actually want to go ahead and let's go ahead and just make this guy a large selection tool. So I want to come in here just to show you a quick reference to how this all can work. So I can drag and set this guy right here. Life is good. I have a top and a bottom of the wing, which looks like it actually, the projections turned out pretty decent. So what it's going to do for that projection is when you use the wizard, it's going to calculate the best it can based on the projections that you've already assigned. And it's done actually a decent job here. It actually hasn't done too terrible. So let's see here. So we're missing a couple pieces in here. Those will be critical. And it looks like they're on the wing. Yeah. I'll go ahead and leave that just for the sake of walking through this. So here we go. We have this set up. So if I was to do nothing else, actually, let's go ahead and Control A to select all. We're going to move it down because you always want to use the most of your workspace. So I'm going to select all these polygons again. I'm going to relocate. Now, there's a chance that sometimes you may not be aware that you haven't. I'm going to Control just to not select that. And as you move things around, you randomly have a polygon that gets left behind. So be cautious of that, and just, again, QC your own work. So I'm going to go ahead and scale him up. Let's do that. So we'll use the best that we can. All right, so I'm pretty happy with this. What we can do additionally, now this is where you're going to end up with some of that extra distortion, but will give you a better flat surface. Without adjusting anything, we can go into relaxing UV and allow it to realign, and now it has gently spread things out in all the surfaces that we've used. I don't like what it's done because it's not as useful to me. So I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm seeing now that this is actually not complete, and that's going to drive me nuts. So I'm going to just go ahead real fast. Let's grab that and that. Okay. So again, let's see which side is which. So this side is right there. So let's rotate you 90. Let's grab all the points we can grab. And we'll do the same thing, kind of set him in place. So this is a part that you kind of would want to actually stretch out a little bit to really make it a more effective map. But this will get you there at the same time. So we'll do that. Because it's looking at the side projection, it's going to get you there. All right. just to make sure. So we're missing that guy too. Oh boy. So lots of little cleanup bits here. This is good to run across. So let's see. I'm assuming that we're probably somewhere in here. And we are. So let's do that. Okay. And the same thing on the other side. Let's just make sure that we have these. Okay, so we'll grab that one little polygon. I mean, sometimes it'll get you. Just one polygon can cause a whole lot of headache. All right, and let's do another check. So that's the bottom, and I'm assuming that is also the bottom. So we'll rotate. Okay, and then we just have the last little bits here. We'll get them in place. Again, one quick check, that looks good, which means that this guy should sit right here. Okay. Good. You can go right there and there. Okay, so now that those bits and pieces are done, I'm going to go ahead in here. And now the beautiful part is you can change this as often as you like. So to start with, we're going to go ahead to our little brush tool. So normally I don't like to have a radius of 10. But when we want to make an outline, you do want it to be easy to view. So let's just go with like a 4. And then I'm going to come back into the UV edit. Control A, you're going to come into layer, outline polygons. And it's going to do this really nice little drafting for you. So now I can save this texture. And actually for the moment, let's see here, let's put this in the right spot. Obviously I make a lot of models. So discus views, outline. And then when I come in, I can open, and I just have it set for paint right now. So I can open it, and with that layer of radius in an 8K image, you can still see the lines pretty cleanly. So this is what we get to work with. So then, if you're like me and you're weird, I use Adobe After Effects. Sorry guys, I'm not a Photoshop guy. Moreover, because I just haven't spent the time dedicated to learning it, and I'm pretty quick with After Effects. So in After Effects, I would take, drag and drop. Obviously, those of you that are big into Photoshop right now are screaming at me saying, what is wrong with you? But we would go in, set our layer, and for example, I'll just go ahead and make a quick couple layers just so we have a reference. So this guy, I'm going to overlay. Actually, let's not, because white is not a good color to overlay on top of. There we go. Okay, and let's just, for kicks and grins, let's just go with a dark red. And I'm going to hide that layer while I go ahead and draw a couple little things. So let's see here. I'm going just go ahead and do something like this. And this is literally just an example. I'm not trying to be super cautious right now, just to show you what your end result could, can end up being. And I can just kind of follow these lines as my guide. And if you want to get into selling models, this is a really important thing, that you have a template that you can give to other people, because if you don't, you're not giving any kind of power for everyone to go ahead and make their own creations. And part of the fun of modeling is letting people be creative and let them make their own things. So boom, there we go, nice quick stripe. And again, because I like just making things a little bit more unique, let's also throw in, actually, you know what, let's just do this. We'll just duplicate that guy. And I'm gonna go ahead and do one of these. Sorry, right now all I'm doing is kind of making a pinstripe. So I'll do that. I'll duplicate him. I'll do this. And I'll just tell him to go away. And voila, we have a cool little pinstripe action going on. And then what do I want for this guy? This guy, maybe we want, say, a little bit smaller. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, doke. Something a little bit more exciting than just a random stripe. And what I'll do now is I'll go ahead and hide him. And we'll go ahead and render this. And let's see here. There we go. All right. Do a quick render. Da, da, da. All right, so now I can come in here, back to my standard. So I should be able to take and drop my texture that we just created. Open it up, it looks pretty. Sure, let's add a little bit of legacy reflection and maybe something kind of like that. And now that we've created all of these UV maps, I can delete everything here. And right now you're going, why would you do that? I can drop it on the aircraft and voila, look what we got. Lined up just as the UVs that we set it up. Of course, like I said, you're going to find these little inconsistencies that you're going to want to make your adjustments to the UV. So if I were to do a fast look, I would say that this is probably going to need some work right here because it kind of flares in, and it's going to need some work right here. But for the most part, if you're doing just a flat projection, this would get really distorted on the bottom. It would look really crappy. And this doesn't. This looks very clean. And one of the best parts of this are I can come in and drop a NURB in Cinema 4D, and then I can make it go really ugly and say, oh no, what have I done? Don't worry, those of you guys that are working in Cinema 4D, use edge mode. That's the right method for whenever you're throwing a texture on. And later on I want to go through a tutorial on how to use the UV editor with subdivision, because it does change things. But like that, let's go ahead and just throw a quick quick something. Sure, let's do that. Sorry, I'm going through a lot of settings I normally have preset that I didn't. Effect global, quasi-Monty, and voila. Now I can come in and enjoy the view of what we've just created. So you can take, in this fashion, you can take any model and you can manipulate it as you see fit. It's a neat, simple way to do it using Cinema 4D. I would say a very slow way, but it's not. We're 40 minutes into this video, and we've done a mapping on just the fuselage. We still have to do the wings, but those are already kind of preset. And doing the fine-tuning work is always a little bit on the challenging side. But I did want to walk in here and just show you when we've gone through all this, so I can close all these textures. Yeah, I don't need to save. Oh, actually, I did want to save that. That's okay. You know what? I am going to go ahead and reopen the texture that we had made with the outline. If I can find it. How about that one? So I can open that texture back up again. And for example, if I come in here and I say, I really don't like this. This looks really crummy. Well, I can do one of two things. I can come in and I can do it the right way and fix the actual texture, which is the correct thing to do, or I can grab and I can drag that point until I find the sweet spot. Now, this method is not advised because what you're doing is you're distorting it another way. So that means that once you've actually finished things up and you think that you're happy, when you go to make another painting, it's another texture, it's gonna look really awkward. But I can manipulate and kind of force this, the curvature of what I want if I'm looking for something very specific here, without even going into a paint editor. Again, I don't recommend this. This is just me trying to show you one thing that you can do. So you can actually clean up some of your lines a little bit in that method. But look what it's done. You want to best you can mimic the actual fuselage. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all of those, and I'm going to go back in and I'm going to edit it in the actual file for the aircraft. So I hope this was helpful. Gave you a little warm fuzzy feeling about how to actually use the UV editing tools. I've learned a lot over the past couple of weeks, and I've been forced to actually use these. And a couple of weeks ago, I couldn't even UV edit anything, and it just drives me nuts to actually see how frustrating. Some people are so good at this. I think it's better to see someone that's a novice like myself in editing to give you a better feel on how things can actually kind of progress. And if you have questions and comments, please feel free to share, and I'd love to be able to help out any way I can. And just to give you another view, this is a model that I recently have gone through the full UV edit on. It is not yet rigged, and it is going to be it will be a model on the Condor 2 flight sim. So really excited about when this actually does come out. So you guys will actually get to, any of you aviation enthusiasts will have the ability to go ahead and play around with this model. But just to give you a fast view, it has a small handful of textures. And later on I will show you how to do some of the ambient occlusion baking and how to make some of these gauges. These are all handmade gauges. They're intentional as far as how they each work. Oops, let's see here. So if I come in here, there we go, that's better. I make all the gauges and walk through the texturing. I can walk through the texturing and how that all is supposed to function, so that you can actually make your own airplane models and have things actually work. it's just a neat, fun thing. And for those that are aviation enthusiasts, I know that you're going to say, yes, I absolutely want to be able to do that. So that's what we have for right now, guys. I really appreciate you spending the time watching this video. If you've managed to make it all the way through, I do apologize that this one was a bit long, but end result is it's going to give you some really cool looking things. So UV mapping is the way that all models are being sold now, so you will not be able to get away really with any kind of quick pack and sell. And I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks, guys.